This is Nick Groff, executive producer of Ghost Adventures, the original documentary, and Ghost Adventures Season 1 through 10, and executive producer of Ghost Stalkers, author of Chasing Spirits, the building of the Ghost Adventures crew, and founder of NickGroffTours.com. You are listening to The Ghost host, Sophia Temporelli, on LiveParanormal.com. Tune in.
What are your expectations for the upcoming Season 2 of Paranormal Lockdown?
I think with the new equipment that Nick's going to be using, of course, I think is taking the field in a whole new direction, and I can't wait to see where he goes, who he has in there. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it, and I know that with John Tenney and some of the other locations that they've been to, it'll be interesting to see where he goes, what he does, how he's going to do it, what other things he's going to bring into the field, because we just don't know.
Definitely. I mean, the equipment he has is so amazing. Can't wait to see what's upcoming with the new advancements in the field. I also want to thank you so much for being a part of the panel today. Today we have on Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman. They are locked down together for 72 hours at a time, unless, of course, the unpreceded 100 hours both spent in England's Hisdale House. Paranormal Lockdown is unlike any paranormal programming before. For the first time on the network, TLC will be premiering Paranormal Lockdown Season 2 on December 16th. I want to thank Nick and Katrina for both coming back on my show today. Let's bring them on.
Thanks for having us. How's everything been?
Good. How have you both been?
It's been crazy. It's been a long year. We've been investigating week after week.
Definitely.
Wow.
I mean, you both are very busy on social media. I couldn't imagine either of your schedules.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going nonstop. The whole year has been, for Katrina and I, it's been like a roller coaster ride. It's one minute we're over here in this state, the next minute we're in this country, and then we're back in the States. It's just one haunted location after the next.
So are you both excited for the Season 2 premiere of Paranormal Lockdown?
Yeah, it's, I love that we're opening with the case that we did that we call the Monroe House, because it was, honestly, it was like we were in the middle of a horror movie. I remember, and Nick, I don't know if you remember, but at the one point when we were standing in a room, I remember I turned to you, I'm like, this is like a freaking horror movie. It was
I'll never forget it.
Everything that was happening was like, it was, I mean, it's like every single movie you've ever seen. It was insane.
Yeah, and I think it's something, too, when it becomes a reality. It's one thing going into a location hearing about the accounts of paranormal activity, but it's another thing to actually be in the midst of it. And suddenly all of our evidence is leading us to a discovery that becomes surreal. And I think that's where it becomes very frightening, because now we don't fully understand what we just stumbled upon, and that kind of engages into a whole different category for us. As paranormal investigators, it almost becomes like true detectives in some sense.
I know you have such an amazing fan base. Even though Season 1 is the only one that's aired, Season 2 is coming out. How does it feel to so quickly have such a large fan base?
Yeah, I think we're both so grateful. You know what I mean? Because we love what we do, and I think something that maybe isn't like widely known is that we've been doing the paranormal for so long. So it, even if there isn't a TV show, we would still be doing it. It truly is a passion that we both have, and we both, kind of grew up with this passion. I mean, Nick, you were researching like Area 51 when you were 10,
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing. So it's so, especially, and I mean, we all know this, like, there can be hate out there and everything, and sometimes it's really hard to put yourself out on a big platform like that. So, I feel incredibly grateful that people have shown us a lot of support for what we do. So
yeah, I agree with Katrina. I agree 100%. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fans and for everybody and the people that really support us and come to our pages day after day and minute after minute when we're posting stuff, or just, it's interesting because we'll go into locations, like Katrina saying, no matter what, we've been doing this for a long time, we'll always be doing this. And we'll be in a location and we'll take a break because we do live there for 3 days, and it's crazy when we have a little bit of breathing room sometimes, like during the day or when we're trying to wake up from like 30 minutes of sleep or an hour of sleep, which is crazy after going 30 hours straight or whatnot. And we'll just look at our phones. And and we'll see people that tweet us or Facebook us and say, you know, it's really awesome what you guys are doing, and we really support you, or just like the kind comments, because that helps like mentally push us a little bit further into our investigation. We're like, wow, you know, like this is actually not just affecting us, but it's affecting millions of other people around the world who are watching our every move of what we're doing. So, I mean, honestly, it's the backbone of what we do, and it kind of gives us a little bit of like heart and hope to say, okay, maybe we'll make it out of this investigation, because sometimes it gets scary and frightening, you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, you're basically living in these haunted locations for days, so it becomes your temporary home. It's got to feel really good to, you know, kind of have that common ground wherever you go, which is the tweets or the Instagram messages that everyone's sending.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And I think, you know, it's fun something else, too. It's cool when your family supports you. I mean, it's interesting when you start to realize that so many other people watch it and have, you know, similar experiences. And I think that's where it really fascinates me. It's not just us. It's thousands of people around the world for years and years have been having unexplainable experiences that we can't fully understand. You know, this universe is so complex that that's kind of what drives Katrina and I in Paranormal Lockdown, is to try to discover something new that we can say, okay, that's what that is, you know? So it's very interesting when we live through these locations that we selectively pick and go into it with kind of an open mind and rule out some skepticism, but also discover new things that we didn't fully understand, you know, years ago, that we were like, oh, that has to be a ghost. But then suddenly we realized that, wait, that's something that was unexplainable now it could actually be lending to this manifestation of something that we can actually put some science behind, or something we just completely can't explain yet, that we have no rational explanation for.
Seen the episodes, and they're so amazing. I mean, you get such amazing evidential captures. Can you both walk us through what it was like for each of you the moment you learned that you're going to be a part of Paranormal Lockdown?
It was interesting. I mean, you know, Katrina, we've been working so hard at this for a long time. And it was one of those things that her and I were going back and forth, and we teamed up, and it was interesting from both of our perspectives to, you know, go into these locations. It's a totally different ballgame when you actually live at them. I mean, take aside the paranormal for a second, but when we have to put ourselves, our bodies, our physical bodies and mentality into these locations, they're very gritty at times. So it's a total wear and tear on like your mind, your body, your spirit, and it really breaks you down. And then the other things that you encounter, you know, that becomes falling into the paranormal category. When we found out, we're like, wow, this is going to be extremely challenging, but it's going to be really interesting, because now we've been through so many experiences in our past through different other investigations that led us to this point. We were so excited, but we were also nervous at times, you know, and I think it doesn't really hit, you know, in the back of our minds until we actually go into night one, when we're in the locations where there's nobody else, and Katrina and I are completely isolated and vulnerable, where we're like picking locations for us to sleep, and she's way on the other side of a mental asylum, and I'm way on this side of it, and nobody can hear us scream if something happens. I think that's where it hit us the most, is where we actually had to lay down by ourselves, all alone, and we're like, wait a second, we were so excited, but now I'm actually really nervous to sit here by myself in complete darkness.
Yeah, and that's definitely where it changes, because, like, a lot of times, you know, the locations during the day don't seem that bad, especially if it's, like, a sunny day and there's sunlight coming through the windows. You're like, this isn't bad. I can totally sleep here. And then it comes to the point where it's like, okay, now I have to go to bed. And, like, there's been been a couple of times where I definitely, like, feel like we procrastinate a little bit going to bed. Really? Like, hey, did you see that video of a panda rolling down the hill? And we're like, no, let's watch it. And then, like, you know.
Oh, right.
You're just like, oh, look, another video.
They're like Hinsdale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hinsdale is the worst. It was like, I'm like, oh, no one can sleep in this room, you know, Mary's room on the second floor there. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go in there, you know. I want to see what this is. And then once you actually, like, you're all alone, you're in darkness, and it's just my camera filming me, and I'm sitting there. There's something about that location that affects people differently. And when I'm trying to sit there and lay down, it's such a weird feeling. It's so hard to describe. It's almost like some people, they get nauseous. Some people, they get really agitated, or there's like an energy about it that just kind of encompasses that room. And it's very difficult to really just kind of lay down and stay there for a while. And every day it's different too, so it kind of comes in waves. But that is one location that kind of struck a nerve with me personally.
Nick, I know you stay on these 72-hour investigations, but you also have a family. You are the producer of the show. You go on broadcasts like this to promote. You do your tours. How do you balance all of that?
It's very difficult. But I always put my family first, number one. And then number two, I'm a hyper individual, so I've always been like that mentality of like go, 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 never sit still,
Mm-hmm.
and I always have something going on. It's just what I love to do. I think it's the passion that drives me in this field to try to like figure it out. I sit back and I look at life in general, and I look at the big scope of everything, and I say, okay, this is where it was growing up, and I don't think you realize it until you start getting to a certain point where you're like, wow, there's so much I want to do or evolve, before I pass away someday. So I think a lot of that starts rushing through, like, let's do this, let's do that. Katrina and I are always brainstorming now. I'm like, when we're like in location and stuff, and we have like some crazy theory that pops in our head, we're like, oh, we should do this. Or we'll come up with like a new like device to engineer, and we're like, wow, that's going to take a lot of time and effort to engineer that, but let's do it. So there's always something with both of us, and I just think it's the personalities that who we are and what we love to do. And I mean, basically that's kind of what we've been living by for all of our life, and I think that's why we're living in these locations, because it's just one of those wild roller coaster rides.
Katrina, how do you balance life outside of, the 72-hour investigations along with that?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. I have like an Excel spreadsheet for every single thing in my life. So, it's definitely lots of to-do lists. I don't know. I try to keep as organized as I possibly can, because when you do come home, you have, we're like, we go out in the field for a week, then we're home for a week. So then you only have like a week to get everything else done, before you go out again. It's definitely like key to be organized. I have a wonderful boyfriend who helps me. He made me eggs and bacon this morning, so I didn't have to. So, that helps.
I get that. I have school and then, do the radio show and everything. So I still don't know how I do all of it, but I attribute most of it to having my mom, because she's able to balance my life for me when I can't think. So it's so great to have that.
Your mom want to balance my life for me too?
Honestly, she probably could. She's really good at that. For both of you, without revealing too much, what episodes await Season 2 of Paranormal Lockdown, and what are some of the events that you can relate to our audience today from your individual perspectives?
I would say, Monroe House coming up for our premiere episode this Friday, December 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern on TLC. We're really excited about this because, like we were saying, we discovered something that just became a reality that opened up police investigation. So it's one of those things when, you investigate a location, you close that door, and you're like, wow, we got some great evidence, or this was weird what happened, or something personally kind of stuck with you when you left the location. But it's another thing to be like, wow, this evidence drove us into this, and that could be the answer of what exactly is going on there. So I think Monroe House for me was really on the top list of very impactful episodes, that probably one of the best I've ever done in my life, because of the reality of it. And then I think all of the investigations for Season 2, honestly, are some of the best evidence and some of the best, just push forward in the paranormal field, because, living there, going through the experiences, what Katrina and I have, witnessed and felt and just experienced, it opened up our minds to other possibilities of things that we just didn't understand in our past. And I think that's what's exciting about Season 2, is the thrill of the locations are incredible. Some of the locations we've never done, they've been on my list for 10 years. We've been working extremely hard to get into some of these places. So it's been a long, long journey leading up to this. And I feel like if I had to label this season, it would be the A+ list of a dream, you know, kind of like coming to fruition to be like,
Mm-hmm.
here's our ultimate paranormal lockdown. So it's really a step up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, too, the other one that sticks out to me the most is we investigated a place that had a real-life crime scene.
Oh, wow.
Place about 10 years ago. It still has some objects from the crime scene. And so Nick and I slept there kind of next to these objects. And not so much on like a paranormal level. I mean, it was an active place and we had some really interesting experiences there. But just on like an emotional level as another human being, like realizing what happened there and that, you know, these objects are still part of that environment. It honestly, to me, it kind of messed with my head a lot. But it was, again, we had like so much interesting evidence. And I think as an investigator, sometimes that's hard because we do deal with kind of like the more nastier sides of history, you know?
Yeah.
And it can be really, really hard because you're constantly kind of bombarded with these awful stories that took place in some of these places. But on some level, you have to kind of push through that and also realize, well, people are experiencing activity here, and as awful as this is that this happened, you know, where our jobs are to try to, you know, document the activity that people are talking about. So, you know, that was definitely, it was a really cool location. It was a horrible story, but it was a cool location, and we did get some really interesting evidence from there.
Yeah, you kind of have to, you know, turn into like a cop mode almost and, you know, kind of disassociate yourself and just try to, you know, help people and like push through all of that. Definitely really amazing that you both do that. Do either of you take any measures of protection before or during an investigation?
I never really have. Like, the older I get, though, the more I realize I'm not, you know, invincible and, like, bad stuff can happen. So I definitely, like, kind of, like, mentally just kind of get myself in that mindset of, okay, I'm going to be okay, and, you know, even if something bad happens, I'll be okay. And sometimes, like, before we went to Black Monk House, I did pray, and I'm not really so much a prayer, but I did. And even after Black Monk House, I stayed in England for a little bit, and I went to Westminster Abbey and asked a priest to bless me because the Black Monk House was just so, like, terrifying. So it's, like, kind of like to cover my bases, you know what I mean? Let me, just in case, let me just get blessed by the priest in this, like, 1,000-year-old church, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the scary thing, too, is we fully don't understand sometimes with what we're dealing with. And especially when you talk about the negativity that locations can hold with the energy built up over all these years prior to us even being alive. I mean, this can build on top of other energies and create something that's even more sinister that we don't fully understand now, where we can't put a name to the spirit of, you know, X who was once living. So I think sometimes that's kind of where it gets a little frightening, especially when it hits home with you too. You know, when you don't, like Katrina's saying, you're not invincible. You can't just like close that door behind and that's it. And you can go home and sleep and, you know, rest and be fine and then go to another location. Like it's kind of like thrill seeking. We realize that's not like that all the time. You know, there's a telepathic draw to certain locations like the Hinsdale House or 30 East Drive, or even like places like the Washoe Club in Virginia City or Bobby Mackey's or just certain places like that for different people for certain reasons do affect them. And I've seen a lot of investigators or just people in general that have been affected by a lot of locations, especially myself. But it only makes you stronger is what I realize. And if you keep positive and you keep moving forward and you don't dwell on the negativity, then that's, I think, how you evolve as a strong paranormal investigator or just a researcher in general and a human being. And that's what I really strive for, is kind of like positioning myself, going into locations with the mentality of being logical, being open-minded, but also being intuitive by your own sense and your own personality of like what you're going to feel and kind of go through that, but also validate it with your equipment, because I think that's where you have to really stand strong, is you have to have some sort of, you know, baseline of what you're going to document. So it's not just your body over, your hyper mind kind of working through like the sensitivity of like what you're going through. You have to really back it up too.
Right.
And I feel we've been doing a really good job with season 2, and that's kind of my mentality going in. But you know what? I was never too superstitious and religious and whatnot, and I kind of skated on both lines a little bit, where it's like I want to understand the whole universe. I want to understand life, I want to understand what is next, what happens, the body, how does the body function, how does the brain work. I want to theorize about everything possibility into the unexplainable. But then there comes a time where you understand your life and the direction you're personally going in, forget everything else that you're in right now. But if you understand what you're doing right now in this moment, and all you can do is think positive and put like an imprint in that like telepathic mentality of, I want to do good. I want to succeed. I want to do something that's great. So when I leave, my children behind me can like look at this, of who I was and be grateful for that and be able to talk about it. That's the mentality I always go into locations and kind of walk away from each time. But, I'm an open book, so that's kind of how I roll basically.
Yeah. Speaking about equipment, what are each of your favorite pieces of equipment?
You know what, mine, I like to keep it simple for the most part. I'm happy with a really good camera, a really good recorder, and then I just kind of like to go in and kind of feel the environment. But I will say, we've had using some of the newer equipment that we're using for season 2, we've had amazing stuff come through some of these things, especially the newer audio equipment that we're using. And, it's been to the point where it's been so detailed, the audio that we're getting, and it was things that we didn't even, know about at the time that's been coming through. So those have now been, inducted into my favorite pieces of equipment. And whenever we're investigating, it's like, what should we use tonight? I'm like, can we use a new piece of equipment? He's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for me, I've always been back to the roots of the rawness of not being too complex with how you investigate. It was always nice to use a digital recorder and then, a camera like Katrina's saying. But I think in order to push the paranormal forward, you have to kind of think outside the box and try new things, because it's like anything, trial and error. What works, what doesn't, what kind of connects a little bit better, what can't you explain to be like, oh my God, we're making, some sort of great discovery with the evidence that we're getting that can back it up with facts of the historical location that you're in. So, we've been working really closely with some engineers. Specifically, George Brown has been great with working with him, and he's been developing new devices based off of our theories. And we have a new device this season that he brings in, and it's called the Geoport. And it's an upgraded way above what the GeoBox was, but it works on so many different functions now. And the voices are so much clearer, so much better. And oh my God, the voices and intelligence behind what we're getting is incredible. And like Katrina's saying, some of the locations we've been to, you're talking like we're talking right now. It's that clear. And then we might not understand some of the sentences it's saying based off of our questions we're asking, but then we'll bring in the owners or the historical, the historians at the end, and they'll back it up and say, oh my God, that's this. That happened in 1886. How would you even know that? I had to work 8 years to figure out that documentation, and only I have it.
Yeah.
We don't know. We're asking you. You discovered this on our audio. That's what's crazy is we're finding out new ways to make a better connection to that other side. And I think that's really what's cool about Paranormal Lockdown.
I know we're coming towards the end of the show, but are there any upcoming broadcasts, productions, events, appearances, shows, or websites that you wish to let the audience know about?
Yeah, I would say TLC. Go to TLC. We're airing Paranormal Lockdown on TLC now. We're so happy that, they picked up Paranormal Lockdown Season 2, and it's great that they did that because now a huge amount of people get to watch it. Everybody pretty much has TLC now, and they can view it. So that's a really cool step forward. And they're excited. Everybody's excited at the network to see the premiere. Our Facebook pages, our Twitter pages, Nick Ross and Katrina. We're pretty much all over Google, and we're on social media all the time, and we do run our pages and communicate back with people.
You have an event coming up at at a location we both investigated together, the Queen Mary. So everyone, definitely go check out Nick Roth Tours, by the way, and go buy tickets to come down to Long Beach to the Queen Mary.
You guys should swing by. We should hang out when I'm there. Coming up in February, it's sold out in like 2 days or something. It's crazy.
Wow.
We have Amy Allen coming, myself, and Chad Lindbergh's going to be there. I love our team, honestly. Lee Kirkland, Jennifer Kirkland, Jeff Waldridge, and all the Nick Roth Tour crew. They're just great people. It's like our little family, my second family, home away from home.
Yeah, one other's going to say hi to you right now. It's Scott Latia. He's on the line, too, and we did a round table just before you guys came on and everything. So, Scott, say hi to Nick and Katrina.
Hey, Nick,
Scott.
hey, Katrina, how you all doing?
Hey.
Good. Hey, Scott.
Good. You know, I excited. Cannot wait to see you guys. The new show. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to see the new equipment that's going to be used.
Thank you both for coming on, and we'll definitely love to stop by to the Queen Mary to come see you. It'd be great to see you again. And Chad.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I can't wait to see season 2, so thank you so much.
Sure.
Guys.
Thank you. Well, Nick and Katrina are great guests, and I want to thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Hi, this is Debbie at Xeon Ghost Adventures. You're listening to The Ghost Host with your host, Sophia Temporelli, on LiveParanormal.com.
God bless you all.